Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we're doing a movie called Camp Nowhere.
This is another movie, a part of Allison, Mack, April.
It
And
came out in 1994.
the first thing that I noticed with this movie, well, actually the only thing that I was thinking about the entire time, practically one of the only things, is that, Safi wouldn't know, but this movie is so much like another movie that came out in the 2000s called Accepted. And I was like, this is so bizarre how many similarities there are to that movie. And then I looked up on Google, and a ton of other people noticed too. And I saw all these other posts saying, like, is Accepted a sequel to Camp Nowhere? Camp Nowhere is just like Accepted. Like, there's so many similarities. Like, number one, the main kid's friend accidentally tells someone, and then that person tells other people, and there's, like, the shot where you see all the tons of kids coming there, just like in Accepted, where you see all the people, like, in the crowd, like, grouping together, and it's like, oh, shit, look at all these people who actually came to do this. And then also they both have a crazy former teacher who got fired, and he is working at the mall in both movies, and he is recruited for the project. He even dresses like the character from this movie in Accepted, where he has that hat, and he's got those specific, like, I don't know, like what you call those types of shirts that he wears the whole movie. And then he even has to help entertain them because they get bored. So he has to come over and interact with them just like an Accepted. And, yeah. So I just thought, like, they also have a Parents' Day in that movie, except in the Parents' Day, they actually pull it off, and it's, like, earlier into the movie. So, like, that's what was weird about this movie to me, was, like, I was thinking, I just watched Accepted last year, and it feels like I'm watching it again, but, like, for kids. And also, I would say this is a really good movie. I don't know about Safi. I mean, you know about her taste in movies and television. So, what'd you think, Safi?
Actually, I thought it was a lot of fun to watch, and I thought it was really good. And I think what really made it very good was Christopher
Walken.
Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, yeah, Christopher Lloyd.
He's so funny and versatile and has a lot of energy. And it seemed like, anyway, the movie was a little bit kind of based around him almost, his character.
Yeah.
And but he made the movie. And they also had some... Emmett Walsh played the Repo Man. He just died March 19th.
Yeah.
And
which nobody talked about him dying.
I know, I didn't.
Which was weird.
And then Burgess Meredith had a little bit part in it. And then Kate Mulgrew, who plays the Mud's mother, I think.
Are you going to mention the best supporting actor who is in the movie with Christopher Lloyd?
Are you talking about that other boy?
Biff Tannen.
I don't know.
The guy who played Biff from Back to the Future was the cop.
Oh, I thought he looked familiar.
And so that was really cool, too, because there were several parts of this movie where it really felt like Biff Tannen versus Doc Brown. Like, I don't know, you just can't get that kind of thing out of your head. And this movie came out after Back to the Future 3. So technically, this is kind of like Back to the Future 4 a little bit. And it's amazing, the chemistry that they have. And it's really fun to see them on screen together. And it is kind of weird, though, seeing Biff playing a character who isn't a bully.
I know, that's why I'm like, wow.
Because he's like, when he wants to come off as like that character, he could just easily do it probably any day of the week. And he's playing this cop character who could have easily be played by just any other guy. And I don't know. So that was really fun to see. I really liked that. And, Safi talked about Christopher Lloyd's versatility. Well, part of what what she means by that, and what's really cool about this role for him is that he plays a bunch of different characters. Because he was like a former theater teacher, and so he constantly gets into these different outfits and plays these different personas and tricks people. And so he's a little bit like Saul. Saul Goodman a little bit. Like, he kind of gives off that vibe. And it's really, really fun to watch him play these different characters.
Well, they have all these kids, and all of them, I guess, seem to go to different camps during the summer, depending on their parents and maybe them. Like one parent wants the kid to go to military camp. There's an acting camp. There's a computer geek camp.
There's a fat camp.
And so, in order to this kid named Mud, in order to achieve this, where all these kids decide they want to be a part of it, and the Christopher Lloyd has to pretend like he's a camp director of one of those camps, of each of those camps, and goes to the parents' house to sell them on the idea of sending their kids there. So he dresses in different clothes, has a different persona. So yes, he is very versatile in this movie in particular.
Well, who is your favorite character that he played?
Well, maybe the Shakespearean, the acting camp, I guess.
Yeah, because he had a really funny part where they were doing this fake Parents' Day thing, and that was probably one of the best things in the movie.
That was good, and remember, they weren't even going to do that.
Yeah.
And then they decided, I don't know, all of a sudden they decided to do that. I don't know if they cut a scene or what, but they decided to do it. And
no, they talked about deciding to do it on screen.
Okay.
I just think you were too busy getting high or something.
Oh, for heaven's sakes! God, is that utter BS?
Getting high on Christopher Lloyd. And so he has a really funny line where he's dressed up as the theater teacher, and he's teaching like two of the lesser kids, and he's like, oh, this isn't the main theater program, this is Tennessee for Tots. Like Tennessee Williams.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was hilarious, like Tennessee for Tots. And so, like, my favorite character that he played was probably the father. When he was with the girl that he liked, and he was pretending that he was the main kid's dad. I thought that he was the best in that, as that character, maybe. I mean, he was the most interesting character, or the most fun character to watch. I like the thing where, he got one vegetable so that they could all have it for dinner, and the kid refuses to eat lima beans. And so Christopher Lloyd is like, okay, I'll give you $1 per lima bean. And the kid is eating like almost 100 lima beans. He's really, trying to eat as many as he can, and Christopher Lloyd knows he's going to have to pay him all that money, and I thought that was really funny. Safi?
Well, just the whole thing where what happens, the kid burns himself, and they, on a firecracker, I guess, or no, there were sparklers, I think, and Roman candles. And they are very hot, and they always warn us about every 4th of July about how hot they are, and you could really burn yourself. And he gets burned. Like those doctors, she's a pretty single young woman, and Christopher Lloyd is interested in. They invite her over for dinner. That's what he's talking about. And so,
did you have like a comment to add, or were you just going to take like 5 minutes to explain the context?
Where this woman came from.
Oh.
She doesn't have a real big part, but she kind of comes in there every.
Would you say that's maybe one of the the minor critiques of the movie? Is the whole love story subplot?
Well, they don't really. It's very small.
Yeah.
They don't really expound on it.
It kind of just feels like it's there
for show.
To be there.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it has much of a purpose other than he did need a doctor, and it was good for Christopher Lloyd to get on her good side and make it to where she wouldn't tell on them.
Right.
But other than that, she really wasn't that integral of a character, but she was fun. That was the funny thing about this movie was that it had a couple of those cliches of like 80s and 90s movies.
Yeah. And clothes, too.
But it had fun with it, and it didn't take things too seriously, and didn't make everything so monumental in terms of, like, especially at the end. Because at the end, you're thinking, like, oh, this is going to be like all those movies where there's these terrible negative consequences, and it's just a real downer. But no, like, mostly at the end, it's like a positive ending, and it ends on a very light note. And
I thought the whole thing where it could have been really bad, they seemed to keep it in check for the most part, and actually, I think they learned a lot. They probably learned a lot. They called this Camp Nowhere because it really wasn't any specific camp, but not for these other parents. All these parents would think, oh, it's the so-and-so fat camp, it's the so-and-so Shakespearean camp, etc. But they learned, I think they all learned a lot. More than they would learn at these regular camps.
Well, yeah, it's kind of the same takeaway that you get from Accepted, where in that movie, instead of going to a quote-unquote real college, they just make a college themselves, and you come away with the same message that, like, it just shows that, like, you don't really need a real college to go to have an education, and you don't really need a real camp to go and have a camp experience. Well, the only ironic thing is that, the whole movie is about how these kids are doing this camp themselves.
It's 8 weeks, too.
But
8 weeks.
They needed Christopher Lloyd, and they needed that woman. They still needed some adult help. They couldn't do everything themselves. There was one instance in the movie where the kids were trying to buy beer, and then Christopher Lloyd had to help them with that, and that was also really good, and yeah.
Well, they had to, I don't know, I think if it would just been all the kids with nobody like Christopher Lloyd or anything, I don't think it would have been as fun or as believable.
No, it wouldn't have, because a lot of the kids were kind of immature, and especially they had a couple of kids who were bullies, and there was one part where they really demonstrated why you do need, like, adults at camp, because, there were some fat kids at this camp, and the bullies were starting to pick on the fat kids and starting to try to beat them up. And see, that's a situation where you do need adults there because you have these shitheads who can't handle their anger issues or whatever, so they're gonna, like, bully people and whatever.
Well, they also had that boy, Mud, who burned himself, and it was a second-degree burn.
Yeah.
And he needed medical attention.
Yeah.
So they needed somebody to take him to the hospital or take him to a doctor or something. So that was another thing. And you also had to have the adult there to convince the parents that this is a legitimate camp.
Yeah.
And so they would pay them money, because, it costs money, and pay in cash. They all paid in cash, and then they went crazy. I wasn't sure how it was all going to work out, because they had all this cash, and the kids decided they wanted to spend it.
Yeah, they all wanted to have their money that their parents spent for them.
Right.
So that was the part where it kind of worried me, because I thought, these kids need to have food for the whole summer.
I know, I was thinking about the food, too.
And, yeah. And to be fair, too, it was kind of surprising, because the kids who were supposedly at fat camp, they still ate food kind of like they would at fat camp, like, they weren't allowed to have cheese in their omelets, because that scene kind of confused me at first. Like, there was this one fat kid, and he was like, I wanted cheese.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, you asked for plain. And he said, I wanted cheese. And they go back and forth, and finally it's like he takes the plain. And I thought, oh, wait, I didn't realize it's because he's supposed to be at fat camp, so she didn't put cheese in his omelet and stuff like that. And I thought, this movie's a lot better than a lot of the other camp movies that I've ever seen. Like,
yeah.
And I'll say, like, this is probably a controversial opinion, But I would say this is probably better than every Friday the 13th movie in the entire series, except for maybe the 6th one, because this is an actual camp movie. They're having summer camp stuff go on, whereas in all the Friday the 13th movies, it's supposed to be at summer camp, and then there's no camp stuff at all. So.
Oh, and just to mention too that they picked it like a camp area, like next to the lake, but it was for hippies. It was like a commune.
Yeah, that was funny.
So they already had, like cabins there, and they had a bus, a abandoned a hippie bus or something, and so they painted everything and cleaned it all up. It looked good. It looked like a camp, and the lake was there, and so. And then Christopher Lloyd had his own cabin. So it was nice. It turned out to be. And then they had a flag that said Camp Nowhere. And then when they had the Parents' Day, which was interesting how they pulled that off, it was based on timing and giving everybody the wrong timing.
Oh, so, it was very incredible because they it was like a Mission Impossible special mission type of thing.
It really was.
It was insane.
Style.
And it was cool. It was awesome. Definitely a highlight of all the 90s, 80s movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Safi?
I don't know how it did. I'd never heard of it before.
I know. Well, that's the funny part is that this seems like a classic movie. And I've heard about the movie Heavyweights over and over and over again. I don't think Heavyweights is that good. Honestly, that's like one of the top like camp movies that people talk about.
Really? I never heard of it.
With Ben Stiller. It's all about a fat camp, and it's very, very cliche. I mean, very cliche. And then they have a Meatballs. People talk about Meatballs a lot with Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah.
But for some reason, nobody ever talks about this movie. And I feel like this movie is like, it might be the best camp movie I've ever seen. Because at this moment, I mean, Ernest Goes to Camp is okay, but I can't think of like a summer camp movie that's better than this. Can you?
No, but I haven't seen all these movies you're talking about.
Summer camp.
But if you've seen them and you watch them critically, then I think you know.
Yeah, I mean, some of them I haven't seen. Haven't seen Wet Hot American Summer. And, I mean, Sleepaway Camp is and 1 and 2 are pretty damn good, but still.
They're horror movies. They're not like this. People don't get murdered here. And the only injury there was the kid who got burned.
I would say that if Addams Family Values took place entirely at camp, it would be a better movie.
I was thinking about that part.
American Pie Band Camp is not as good, even though I really like that one. I haven't seen The Parent Trap in a long time.
But I don't remember the camp too much.
There was one camp movie with the Olsen twins, where they were twin characters, of course, and I can't remember that one very well. Mm-hmm. Fired Up was pretty good. So, like, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a better camp movie than
this one.
Than Camp Nowhere. So it's kind of bizarre that people don't talk about it, considering it's the best camp movie.
I don't think they know about it.
I don't either. I mean, it's weird. It has Christopher Lloyd. It's got Biff. Oh yeah, there's Fear Street 2 with the whole lesbian crap. I guess if people like that crap.
But that wasn't any good.
Made by Netflix with all their diversity quotas and terrible storytelling. But yeah, there's no other camp movie worth talking about as far as I'm concerned. Like, this movie makes the Friday the 13th movies look like piles of garbage. Like, we basically, instead of watching that whole series last year, we could have just watched this movie and said, like, yeah, this is the best, and then forget about it. Right?
I guess so, but technically we did watch all those movies.
Suffered through them.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, because there's a lot of stuff we could talk. I guess my favorite scene of the movie, and we'll talk about your favorite scene too. My favorite scene was definitely the car wash scene. Christopher Lloyd had to distract Biff Tannen, and so he takes it. He's like distracting him, and he takes him into the car wash for a free car wash, and he's actually going through the car wash on foot, and he's getting washed himself and everything, and it's hilarious. He goes through every single little part, and then even at the end, he gets a complimentary wax, and it's like
it's all dripping off of his body.
That was so funny. That was definitely my favorite part of the movie. Safi, what was your favorite part? Was it the joke at the end with the two kids in the lake, and you thought they were both naked, and then it turned out they weren't?
That was a good scene.
That was a funny scene,
funny.
I was like, they'd never do that scene nowadays, because they were.
She had on a strapless swimming suit.
Yeah.
So it looked like this kid was sitting in the water. His name's Walter, and
he thought he was gonna go skinny dipping with this soulless ginger girl named Betty.
Yeah, Betty.
And so.
Can't remember her last name, but she had on a strapless bathing suit, so it looked like she didn't have any swimming suit on, and she on at all. And she actually held it in her hand and showed him, see, do you want to do this? Can you handle it? And so he takes off his suit, and she takes it with him, and then she stands up. And you see her in her strapless bathing suit, and she said, I packed an extra bathing suit.
Yeah, that was pretty hilarious. But Safi, what was your favorite scene? Like, did you have a favorite scene, or were you too busy getting high off of Christopher Lloyd?
Betty Stolen, which I should have remembered.
No, it wasn't. It was Betty Stoller.
No, I think it was stolen. Like
no, it
stolen,
wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Food.
No, it wasn't.
Baking.
That's a
goods.
lie. I had the captions on. I would know.
Okay, whatever. So anyway, I guess my favorite scene was the kids. This was another thing. The kids all got bored. It was raining, and of course, if you know about all of those Friday the 13th movies, every night it's raining. It has to rain in order for something bad to happen.
And a thunderstorm.
It can't be a clear night. And this, I mean, really, this is true. Watch them and you'll see. But anyway, it rained once. And the kids were like, they were acting so bored, like they were going to have a fit. And some of them wanted to go home. And so Mud went down and got Christopher Lloyd, and they did a whole thing, and the kids were fine. They got through it, and they did a little play and they had these just little figures, basic figures behind like a very thin cloth, and it had their stars and all kinds of. Somebody threw up, and they had that, like a little stick thing with that. And
I thought that sequence was okay, but
it could have gone completely wrong.
Yeah.
The kids could have, there could have been a big problem, some of them wanting to go home and going home, and because they were homesick or something and bored or whatever. And I thought it was funny how they could get it all together.
Well, I thought it was a little bit of a missed opportunity for the characters to have a little bit more character to them.
Maybe.
Because I was thinking, like, there weren't a lot of scenes in the movie where the characters just talk to each other.
No.
Like, there were a couple here and there of, like, one-on-one interactions, like we should also say the main character, his best friend is, like, the quote-unquote school bully, but he's actually, like, best friends with the main character secretly, and they have a really good friendship, and he's also got kind of a love interest thing going on, and also at the end, the main character, he's got a love interest. She's supposed to be at fat camp, and it's funny.
That was weird. That was one thing I didn't like.
She wasn't fat at all.
No, she wasn't fat at all, so I didn't get that. Because her mother comes up, it's Parents' Day, and her mother comes and finds her, and she's cooking. Because she does a lot of cooking. She's the one who gave that heavy-set kid an omelet without cheese.
I think that, and I'll have a controversial opinion number 2. And I'll say that, like, if a fat child isn't diabetic or doesn't have some kind of a medical problem, then sending them to a fat summer camp is child abuse.
Well,
because
I was going to say it would probably make them feel worse.
Yeah,
than
and
what
so
they feel.
it was kind of, that part was cool, how all these kids, they didn't have to go to these shitty camps that they didn't want to go to. And, but they still got the results. Like, the fat girl supposedly lost weight, but
What weight?
I don't know. Well, she does, we should mention, she does share a kiss with the main character at the end of the movie, and I thought that was funny, because it was a real kiss. And I thought, I don't think I've seen in a lot of kids' movies where the main character has, like, an adult kiss with another girl at the end of the movie. And I thought that was kind of cool. What'd you think of that, Safi?
I thought that was interesting. I haven't seen. You can hardly even see it with adults nowadays.
Oh, yeah, well, nowadays it's all about, like, oh, did you ask consent before you kissed that girl on screen? Like, did the characters audibly say that they consented to each other kissing each other? Like, oh, no.
Well, actually, the movie starts out with these four main characters. Like Marco said, the bully guy, Mud. These are the two boys that pretend like they have this bad relationship. And then you have the two girls. So they're like the four main ones who get together with Christopher Lloyd and decide to do all of this. So they all, each one, I mean, there was two boys and two girls, and at the end, the bully boy and the blonde girl shared a kiss, and Mud and the so-called heavyset girl, which she wasn't at all.
She wasn't fat at all.
Shared a kiss, sorry. So I thought that was fun. For them, like I said, I don't know if I've said it, but I thought the kids...
You thought that was fun.
The kids that made the movie, I thought they must have had a really fun, good time.
Yeah.
It must have been really fun for them.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, at the end, they do these after clips. They kind of showed them in the credits, along with the credits in the corners.
I turned off the credits because they started doing this, like, cringeworthy music video type
they
thing.
Were
and
dancing around and playing around and laughing with all the kids.
I didn't like that.
Thought I don't know. I just can imagine, though, doing all those things with the different camps, setting up that Parents' Day.
Yeah.
Which was amazing, the way they did that.
Yeah, what they did was they had the parents come on a specific schedule, and for each parent that came, they would set up the different camps and pretend to be doing the different camps. And so they went through each one, and it was just really, really cool at how they did that. And I thought, like, movies nowadays would never do that. Like, they couldn't handle doing this type of thing. Like,
why?
It'd be too hard.
Why?
Because it takes too much work. It's like, oh, let's just CGI everything and have, like, some sort of, like, a sad part. Because that was the funny thing in this movie, was that at the end, one criticism that I'll say, it was very predictable that during this Parents' Day, things would go wrong, and they would have...
It was almost the end of the movie, and
yeah,
they were lucky nothing had gone wrong.
But they had the big reveal scene. Right, Safi? Did you recognize that? No,
Make it all the way through. It was after, I guess it was during Parents' Day then, at the end of it.
Did you notice that I was going to say something? Or, like, that was the big reveal type of scene that, like, I despise?
Well, it was at the end. I mean, they went through the whole movie. I mean, this was like maybe the last, what would it be, 10, 15 minutes? I don't know.
Well, the thing is that I liked about it, though, is that they acted like maybe they're going to have a sad period at that point. But then all of a sudden, everything works out, and Christopher Lloyd comes back and turns himself in. The main kid, he takes responsibility for everything, and he even helps pay off Christopher Lloyd's debt. And I thought, like, this was great. Like, it's one of those times where, like, the big reveal didn't really mean anything at all, which is very good because, like, I despise big reveal shit. It's just the worst. It's like, it's so awful and just not fun to watch in anywhere. Like, who wants to watch that?
Yeah, well, but it really it wasn't as, and it wasn't as predictable, I don't think, because you think, oh well, somebody's going to get in trouble, Christopher Lloyd's going to go to jail.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought,
just that
yeah.
would be what you would call predictable.
Yeah.
But the little boy had saved all his money, his part of the money, and had it rolled up in a sock, and he gave it to the repo man. And said, doesn't that satisfy? It's not completely all of it, but it was quite a bit, and it did satisfy him. He said that he could chalk off the missing dollars, and you wouldn't believe what the car was. Well, if you were alive back then, or you weren't a little child or not born yet, this was a Gremlin. Those are the crappy cars, and this was like painted a lime yellow or something.
A lime? Yellows?
Limes.
Yellow,
like for
limes are yellow?
Yeah, like one of those key lime pies. It's not green, and it's not completely yellow. It's kind of in between. And
so that's like a crappy car? Because I thought,
yes,
it's
a crappy car.
Well, I thought it looked like okay to drive.
And this money was like over $2,000 that he owed. He had not paid. He paid, what did he pay, 11 payments? Or he paid a few payments, but just decided not to pay the rest. And probably because he was unemployed. I don't know. That doesn't matter. But anyway, it's a crappiest car. I mean, it was all, and it was very distinguishable. In other words, when they're in town and the cop sees it, they know, they can spot it's like the only one around. The type of the car and the color of the car, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's, if you know anything about that car, it's a crappy car.
The one other criticism I would say is at the end of the movie, the John Bender Jr., the main supposed bully, he doesn't really, all the kids get closure with their parents, except for him.
Yeah, they don't show it. I didn't see his dad at the end.
Yeah, his parents don't show up again at the end of the movie.
That was weird.
So he goes home with his love interest's parents and her. So I thought that was kind of strange. Maybe it's because they thought nobody's going to believe that those terrible, like, abusive military school type parents would, make up with their child at the end. Or I don't know.
I just thought he had to go back out of town, that they were out of town. I don't know.
Well, it was noticeable. It was like they were the only parents who weren't at the very end of the movie, then they were missing.
Yeah, I don't get that. The father went to the parents' day, and then they set up all these traps for him, like they were doing a military exercise.
They tortured him.
Avoid bullets and everything, and they did really good with it, and they even made him some kind of what is that stuff called? Not a salami, but some kind of meat sandwich, but they put dirt on it or something too, and he hates that kind of sandwich, and then it had dirt to make it even worse.
Yeah.
And so the guy just finally gave up and said, okay, I think I've seen enough, and he leaves.
One thing that I would say was outdated, which I don't really use that term very often, and I still thought the joke was very funny, it's just that it is something to talk about, is that Christopher Lloyd has this joke where he says that, would you like to have some chocolate cake from Fat Camp? And he gives the kids, like, real chocolate cake, and then he gives the parents, like, liver paste or something.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, like, since it tastes bad, you know that it's diet food. And that's one thing that you could say is a little outdated, is because nowadays the whole thing is, like, to make the diet food try to be good. Like, try to taste good to where you don't really notice that it's diet food. in particular.
Or
And
it's made out of plants.
That doesn't mean that it always works, but I'm just saying, like, nowadays that wouldn't be like a foolproof plan to make the parents know that it's diet food, you know, because nowadays it would be more like, oh wow, that's actually really good. It tastes like chocolate cake and stuff, and I like it, and I'm gonna be the Biggest Loser.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Like on The Biggest Loser, they had a couple episodes, or like mini episodes, where they make these desserts, and they be these really like queer desserts. Like they made this one that was like with Cool Whip or something, and just really strange. But you know, they were supposedly really, really good. And yeah, like diet food isn't supposed to taste terrible on purpose anymore, at least.
Yeah. Well, that's because they make too much money from doing a new and improved diet. So.
Do you like diet food, Safi?
No.
We haven't even talked about Allison Mack yet. I mean, this is
I don't know what to say about her. I don't think she didn't really have much of a part.
Well, this whole month is dedicated to her.
Well, I know, but she was a little girl. I don't know.
Well, she had this scene where she was homesick, and so John Bender Jr. said, like, okay, let's make necklaces together. And that was like her big contribution to the movie. And I will say that a good camp story would be, you know, I went to Boy Scout camp, unfortunately.
It was not
and
good.
It was crappy, to say the
One
least.
of the worst things. My other son went to 4-H camp. You never even went to 4-H camp, did you?
No.
That was a lot better. So much better.
And,
better food, better activities.
well, I don't think I told you everything that we did, or gave you, like, the whole thing.
Well, you weren't there. It was only a few days, and the other camp is twice as long.
Well, you know, it was just not a very good time, to say the least. Like, it was just, there was not very much to do,
Yeah.
and the stuff that there was there to do was, like, not very fun at all. Like, there was one part where I was tasked with taking care of another kid, and I had to watch over another kid as a part of, like, the camp experience, and it's like, I don't think that this is what camp is for. And so that was really weird. And then, but at a certain point, I was just so bored, and I was just so, like, sick of the camp, because, like, when we went to go swimming, like, on the way there, they had, like, the sewage facility nearby, and so the whole walk up to the pool smelled terrible.
Stunk.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Did you experience that?
I remember I didn't even walk
Oh,
up to the
okay.
pool. The pool was way on top of
Yeah.
you had to go way up a huge staircase. It was like climbing a mountain. And it smelled.
Yeah.
The area, even down at the bottom.
It smelled so bad. And it even smelled like that at the pool. And then the pool was really small and tiny. It was overly crowded. You couldn't have fun at all. So that was kind of an epic fail. And then they had the stupid murder mystery thing that they did where, like, you had to go on a hike, and it was like a murder mystery thing, and that was stupid. And then at a certain point, though, I was just really sick and tired of this shitty camp. And I pretended that I was homesick.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that.
Because I wanted to go home and finish playing the Ghostbusters video game. Because I was like, you know what? Playing the Ghostbusters video game is a lot more fun than this piece of shit camp right here. And I pretended to cry because I saw another kid. He got to go home because he said he was homesick.
Which one was that?
I don't know. It wasn't.
Blonde kid?
No.
Say any names.
It wasn't Bradley, and it wasn't any kid in my pack. It was some other kid. He was a little younger, and he was like, I'm homesick. Wah. And I was like, ooh, and I took a couple of notes in my head, and I was like, okay, that's what I have to do. And so I was like, I'm kind of feeling homesick, and I want to go home. And instead of getting to go home, the main kid's father was like, you know, maybe you can just get through this, and maybe you can just have fun, and, you know, maybe it'll get better or something like. But he convinced me, and I was like, shit, now I have to stay. And I can't, like, because I thought it would just be an easy thing of, like, I'll pretend to be really homesick, and then I'll get to go home and play Ghostbusters.
It wasn't that long of a camp
But
either,
it sucked, though. It just sucked.
I know, I could tell. It wasn't that good.
I could do a video talking about the whole thing, because it was just so terrible. And the food was terrible. Just everything was terrible. Well, there was only one good food thing that we had. We did this outdoor camping thing on the last night. The night that Michael Jackson died.
Yeah.
And that was another thing. Like, Michael Jackson died while I was at camp.
Yeah.
So that's another, like, oh, that kind of sucks. And they gave us peach cobbler with ice cream, and that was really good. But other than that, all the food sucked. And
I think I came to get you.
yeah.
That's when I came to get you too.
And then
Everybody.
then I came
It
home,
was over.
and I finally got to play Ghostbusters, and unfortunately, I beat the video game in 3 hours. I finished the video game in a couple of hours, and so the rest of the day, I was bored, and I was like, whoops, if I would have gone home early, I would have been kind of bored as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would have much rather have been bored at home than been miserable at Boy Scout camp. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I thought, well, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. I just thought we had to go stay in a hotel that night because it was late.
Yeah.
And then the next day we went home. And it was a terrible storm. So it was probably good the camp was over because you would have been in that storm outside, and that would not be good. So
Yeah.
it all worked out. It wasn't a very long camp, but I could tell. I grew up going to Girl Scout camp, and my camp was like 2 weeks, and it was so much better.
The weird thing about the
Better.
camp,
100 times better.
the weird thing about the camp is that there were all these, like, areas that they had, like, all these buildings. Like, they had, like, a castle or something. They had these castles randomly in the middle of these fields, and I was like, what did they do in there? Like, like, there were all these things where I was like, are we going to get to do any of that stuff? Oh, no.
I think it was a multi-used camp for different groups. So maybe those places were for other groups.
It was confusing, and it was like we didn't get to do anything. Like, we got to go in the middle of the forest.
Did you make anything?
No. We got to go in the middle... No. We got to go in the middle of the forest and shoot these plastic bows and arrows, and then the leader got upset, or the activity guy got upset because I shot an arrow, like, right into the forest, because I was such a good shot, and it was like, oh, tough shit. Like, you go get it. Fucking piece of shit. Can't make a good summer camp.
They had regular bows and arrows.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember. It might have been like a regular bow, but like plastic arrows or something. And I shot it, into the forest. And he was like, "Nah, you have to go get it." I'm just kidding. And it's like, oh yeah, this is such a fun camp experience.
So anyway, we have had our personal share. Even I have way back a million years ago.
Here's a good question,
in
Safi.
Kansas.
Which would you rather do? Would you rather join Allison Mack and her cult, or would you rather go to my Boy Scout camp?
Oh, Marco. Stupid. So anyway, I think we're done with the review. We both liked the movie, enjoyed the movie.
I love the
fun.
movie. It's a
And
classic.
It really, when you think something's going to not go well, it ended up that they worked it out. It was fine.
There's no political agendas, bullshit.
And Christopher Lloyd, I think I mean, talk about a solid foundation for which the movie was made. He was really good.
Yeah.
And I thought, boy, if he hadn't been in it, I don't know how it would have worked out, but they picked the right cast. I think that all worked out too. That's another thing that's good. That's another thing that's important for a good show or a movie is a good cast. That can make all the difference in the world.
Well, what would you rate this movie in terms of food, Safi?
Well, I guess what I'll do is I'll give it a banana split. Now, I haven't had a banana split in, God, a long, long time. I mean, it's winter. That's not something you really eat during the winter, but I'll probably eat one this summer. But, and you know, like Christopher Lloyd is the banana. And the characters are the ice cream dips, although I think there's usually 3, there'd have to be 4. Because there's 4 kid characters who are the main characters in the movie. And then all the toppings are all the fun things that they did, and it was all a good combination. That's kind of, and it was fun and sweet and just fun and happy, and it worked out. So that's what I would give it.
What was the sweetest part?
I don't know about. Well, when I say that, I just mean that it was fun and happy, and you know, together and. And I just thought...
Did you think that Allison Mack was the sweetest part?
Part.
Oh, she will in their next movie.
The other people, now they had, you know, they were like, what would you call supporting actors to Christopher Lloyd? The kids. But the kid named Mud, he had a huge part.
He was a really good child actor.
Yeah.
Actually.
They all were. I thought they all did a good job. You know, they didn't. Sometimes these kids, they overact.
Yeah.
And they just they just make too many, you know, like they drag everything out in terms of their emotions where it's not realistic. It's disingenuous.
And none of them overacted or did a bad job. All of them did good. They had a couple of girls who were twins. And they couldn't pronounce Minneapolis. They called it Minneapolis.
It is Minneapolis.
No, it's Minneapolis.
No, it isn't. It's Minneapolis.
No, it's...
I know. Look it up.
Look it up. No.
It's Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, your fucking face. Minneapolis.
No, it's not Minneapolis.
Yeah, it is.
No, Marco.
How to pronounce it? Google.
Minneapolis.
No, Minneapolis.
No, Marco. That's not right.
Minneapolis.
No, Marco.
Minneapolis.
Look at the word.
Apples.
Look at the word.
Yeah, you don't say mini.
Minneapolis.
No. Because you go Minia and then Applelis.
No
Minia.
It's mini app.
Because this isn't.
Mini app.
No, because this isn't the word mini, like M-I-N-I. This is M-I-N-N-E. So it's Minia. Minneapolis.
What's your food review?
I'm looking it up now. Minneapolis. See? Let's hear American pronunciation.
Minneapolis.
No!
Dipshit.
No!
Okay, don't do that. Don't yell like that.
My food review. This is actually a tough one because I don't want to give it something too childish because this is a genuinely good movie. It's not just like a good kids movie. It's a good movie for everyone. So I would give this movie I would give it, yesterday I went to Steak and Shake for fun and because I haven't been there in a long time. And I got a cookie dough shake. And I was thinking about, this movie reminds me a lot of, I really love cookie dough. A lot of people really love, to just eat raw cookie dough. Yeah, even though you're not supposed to.
Because of the eggs.
Everyone loves to do that. Yeah. And there were a couple of times when I was a kid and I would just buy like a package of cookie dough at the store, and I would eat that for dessert. Just get it out and just eat cookie dough out of the package. There was one time where we bought Otis Spunkmeyer's cookie dough.
It's a school fundraiser.
Yeah, for our school, and I would eat raw cookie dough out of that too, and it was really, really good. And then what I would do too is I'd take some of the cookie dough and put it on a plate and put it in the microwave and microwave it for like 10 seconds, and it was kind of like in between being cookie dough and being a cookie, and it was like really, really tasty. So this movie's like just eating cookie dough as much as you want. And what flavor of cookie dough is Allison Mack, Safi?
I don't know.
Why not?
I guess vanilla.
Why? But how could a vanilla cookie dough be so evil? You have to factor in the cult. You have to.
What you would put in it to make it evil. If you're going to say chocolate chips, I don't think that makes sense. That's what I said. I don't know what else you. What about raisins?
Dark chocolate chunks with nuts. Right?
Some people might like that.
Well, I'm not saying I like it or don't. I'm just saying what flavor is she.
Maybe raisins.
You like raisins though. Every time we go to Subway, Safi gets chocolate chip for me, and she gets raisins for herself. Yeah. So you're saying you really like her, huh?
Don't be a dip.
Is she your favorite cookie?
I just don't know what you would put in a cookie.
Is she your favorite cookie?
Oh my god. I just don't know what you would put in a cookie to make it evil.
Well, I do.
What?
Well, actually, an evil cookie to me would be like a vegan cookie. You know, like a cookie made out of crap. Or like
I know a cookie made out of plants.
a cookie made with grasshopper flour. Or cricket flour. You know, like ground up crickets.
Yeah, maybe that would be it.
Stuff like that.
That would,
But I don't think Allison Mack is like an insect. Well, actually, she kind of looks like an insect nowadays. But she didn't used to. Right?
Whatever. She's just a little girl.
Really?
A little girl.
No, she's like in her 40s, Safi.
She's in her 40s?
Now, Safi, people they grow up.
I guess so. I'm thinking, yeah, because those other kids in the first Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, they're like about 50.
No.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It's so weird because when you watch these movies, you know, you're thinking about the person as they were in the movie. You don't think about them, especially kids.
She's 41.
Wow.
Now, tell me, doesn't she look like an insect now? She kind of has like an insect look to her, like you wouldn't trust her. And if you put her in flour and put her in a cookie, you would die from eating that cookie.
I don't know why did she turn out the way she did?
I think
Did she get addicted to drugs?
I think she got addicted to porn or something like.
Maybe she's a sex addict.
I don't know. She should make a movie about it and then win an award.
Do those Lifetime movies?
No, it couldn't be because Lifetime movies are complete trash.
I know. Well, I would think those miniseries like that one we just watched, that was kind of like what a Lifetime movie used to be.
Yeah.
But it wasn't made by Lifetime. That's the thing. And now, Lifetime, all these Lifetime reality movies. Some of the Christmas movies have been really good, but the drama ones are.
I'd like to see. You know what she could do to make up for all she did? She could make a remake of The Grinch where instead of stealing presents, she goes around stealing children to make to make a cult. And then at the end, she changes her mind and gives all the children back.
Sounds like, what is it? Hansel and Gretel?
Hansel and Gretel?
So you have the Wicked Witch in the forest, and all these kids come there when they eat their...
She killed children. She killed children before the story even started, so you couldn't redeem a character like that. you could redeem the Allison Mack Grinch character, though.
Maybe
She
we
steals
don't know
children.
that.
Oh, I don't know.
We don't know. So anyway, so if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. We will be doing another one later.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is yet.
It's called My Horrible Year.
Okay.
It's basically titled after the year that Allison Mack went to prison.
Is it?
No, but
Oh.
it should be because...
Okay, goodbye everybody.
Bye!